Hello, Markus.
Hello, Heiko. Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining our today's Ask Me Anything session, where we will talk with Gael Colas about many different things around PowerShell DSC, PSConf. So that's going to be fun. And talking about fun, as always, we're trying to find some theme that relates to today in history, and sometimes it's something around technology, sometimes it's about music. So today it's obviously about music. Is it music? Yeah, I think so. It's music, right, Markus? What do you think?
Yeah. So you want to admit that it is your guilty pleasure? I heard Spice Girls.
Now it's out. The truth is out. Yeah. Yeah, not so much. But yes, so it's about the Spice Girls, and they had their first #1 hit back in 1996 with the Wannabe song. So that's the reason why we have this on now. And I will remove the background pretty immediately so we can start. Talking with Gael. We're very happy to have him with us. So I think without further ado, let's add him to the stream. Hi, Gael.
Hello.
The magic. Hello. How are you?
Very good. Yourself?
Yeah, fine. Yeah. So I just, as I said, I think I have to remove my background because it's kind of.
Is it distracting?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I would say so. It's not really my kind of music, but anyway, it's a historical fact. So they had.
It's a classic as well.
Yeah, and it's if I think late at night at a party, when you play this song, you can never be wrong. I think
everyone knows it, so you know.
Yeah, and the dance floor will be full. That's for sure. Yeah. Again, thanks a lot for joining us. You just came back from your vacation, right?
Yes, I was in China for a couple of weeks, and then I've been back at work for about a week or so. So yes.
Nice. Okay.
I've been completely disconnected just after PSConfEU, so that was a good timing for me to just relax and then leave the computer for a bit.
Nice.
And then that was a good time.
Yeah, to recharge batteries. That's sometimes it's an important thing, and there's more to life than IT stuff.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. So we have a couple of questions, and of course, for people who are watching us, if you have questions, if you watch on YouTube or on LinkedIn, please type in your questions, and then we will ask Gael the questions, and so feel free to do that. And so other than that, we have a couple of questions that we kind of have prepared. So Markus, do you want to start with the first one?
Yeah, sure. So it's a question we ask every one of our special guests. So since when are you in IT?
That's a very good question.
And why, maybe?
Why?
and why, of course.
Yes. Well, I've always wanted to be in IT, and quite early. I decided quite early before, So in France, you've got to start. The level is what we call baccalaureate, the bac, and then that's when you're about 17, 18. And then after that, you go to university. And before even I went to university, I knew I would go computer science or something like that. So I was already a nerd, I would say, by that time. So I went straight into IT. And I knew that was the thing I wanted to do. So although the university I've done was a bit special because I went, first year was in Paris, and then I went to China for a couple of years, back in France before going to Oxford in the UK. So that was maybe not the most common way of doing it, but it was good fun. So, that worked pretty well for me. So that was around, I would say, university. I think I finished in 2008 or something, around this, 2008, 2009, around that time. So that's like professionally, that's when I started, I would say.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so the second question already is kind of related to PowerShell. So
we lost Heiko's gone.
Yes. No more questions. Thank you for coming.
No. Yeah. Okay. So since I'm not the host of that stream, I think Heiko have to fix this technical.
Yeah,
He's back.
Okay.
yeah. I just thought, oh, there is some technical issue. Okay. Hopefully everything works fine. So yeah, the question I wanted to ask is, how and why did you start learning PowerShell?
That I'm not too sure when I really started, because I believe I may have done some. Hold on, 2000. No, I can't remember exactly when I started. I know where I really started doing it is on the first job, so I was doing, obviously like everyone, some VB scripts and VBA and stuff like that, and then very quickly I found, okay, what is this new PowerShell thing that people are talking about in some forums, and then some of the nerds are trying to automate stuff. And what's automation anyway? And then I was very quickly hooked. So so as soon as I could in the first jobs, or maybe the second job, so probably in the 2010, something like that, I started dabbling with it, just using as a command line tool. And then very quickly I found, okay, but if I can do that in the shell, I can probably write something. And then if I can write something, I can probably automate my job. And quite quickly, my sysadmin job became like part-time sysadmin, part-time developer in the PowerShell ways. And it was obviously initially tiny scripts or tiny things, or just saying, well, if you have this type of request, we can just run this bit of script, that would be shared, maybe in an email, or, just something that you can run in your console, not something fully automated. And then, when you start like this, you finish by doing PowerShell about 100% of your time, if you're lucky. And I've been doing some PowerShell full time, I would say, for now a fair bit of time.
Wow.
I don't know exactly. I'm really bad with dates and everything like that.
And was there any particular platform you started to use PowerShell for?
I was mostly doing Windows servers, so it was probably 2012 R2. So it was about 2013, I guess.
Okay.
So from 2013 on, I was doing lots of PowerShell. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But I started before that, and then it was a bit. It was more like before 2012 R2. It was probably more, like the little scripts, Exchange. Like I've done a fair bit of Exchange probably before that. But I was managing servers after that, and 2012 R2 was what we had mostly.
Okay.
So I did lots at that time.
Okay, cool. Excellent. I think, Markus, so we are at the next question, huh?
Okay. What would you recommend for people wanting to start with PowerShell?
That's a good question. It depends, because everyone learns differently. What's important, in my opinion, whatever the technology or the skills you want to gain, you need to have something that you need or you can use every day, or not every day, but very often. So don't try to say, let's start a new project of something I've never done before on a subject that I will never use outside of this project. That usually doesn't work well. It has to be something that you want to use, and probably you have a need. It's not critical, so it doesn't matter if you leave it for a couple of days, but something which is interesting and useful enough so that you can just, stick to it. Not much time, but regularly. It's just about, practicing. And some people work well with a book, and some need, some people have a book, but then as soon as they start writing, they just say, well, I don't know where to get started. And then they prefer to have a video or like a workshop and something like that.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. Being consistent, I think, is the main thing, right?
Yes.
And just doing it. I think that's good advice. And as you said,
people do not only read about it, do it.
Yeah, just do it. Just do it.
And if you need someone to help you doing it, find, I don't know, user group. Find, some people do things online. You can probably follow a stream to see how someone is doing it. Or you can say, well, I would like to do this. I have this little project. I don't know where to start. Is there someone on the internet that would help me? Or what if I do that online on some I stream and then someone help me, like tell me what things I'm doing wrong, or find a user group where you can have this kind of activities. I'm sure there's plenty of people ready to help, but you have to do the work to get started.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the community is, as we all know, is really great around PowerShell. So definitely people are willing to help at any time. Absolutely. Cool. So I think it's time to dive into one of your favorite topics now, which is PowerShell DSC. I heard.
So yeah, quite early when I started PowerShell, so 2012 R2, there was this thing based on IndieOS, which was a DSC. And so as you know, the first release of DSC, desired state configuration, was with Windows Server 2012 R2. And that was the V1. Let's put it like this, the V1 of DSC.
Yeah,
long time ago.
Yeah, so it seems like long ago, right? So one of the questions that we wrote down was, it might sound familiar for people who are working with ChatGPT. Maybe it's like, can you describe PowerShell DSC for a 10-year-old?
For a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
I'll try. Maybe not 10-year-old, maybe a 15 years old.
Okay.
So if you have computers and you want to manage, the principle is either you tell the computer what to do, so do this, then do that. And that's what you would do with PowerShell, which is imperative. You say what you have to do at the point I'm telling you, or I'm writing it to you to like run this, do that. Or, and that's the desired state approach, where you say, this is how you should look like, just make it so. So you're telling it, this is what I expect you to look like, to be configured. I give you all the information, the data, and then you run whatever you need to run to be compliant with this state, with that desired state. So that's the main difference between something running scripts, I would say, and having something which is you just provide the configuration, which is the data of this that describe the system, and then the engine, which is the DSC tooling, if you want, enacts those configuration and then converge eventually to what you expect. Is that good enough?
So it's about managing these drifts, so to speak, right?
It's about managing a state and say, I want you to be in that state, and then eventually converging to that state. That's the rough idea. And then the way to do it is specific to the technology. So DSC, desired state configuration, is one way of doing it, but there's other ways. And for this principle, there's obviously Puppet, which is quite famous, and there's also Chef, which is another one. And then we have like variations. For systems management, Ansible is a known variation, but the principle is a bit different. It's not really a desired state. It's more about, like, it's a bit more complex, so I'm not going to get into the details for Ansible.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I think that gives a good general understanding about what PowerShell DSC really is.
Great.
Cool. Okay, so I guess we can move on to the next question, Markus. What do you think?
Yeah, so how has the PowerShell DSC community evolved over the years, and what do you think has spurred its growth?
Oh, that's a huge question, because obviously since 2013, the community has changed a lot. I could go through an history lessons, but if you go to dsccommunity.org, and then there's a website here, and there's like some information about the community that explains a little bit about the background. Initially, the DSC community obviously didn't exist before DSC was released. Then the PowerShell team at the time released DSC, and they started creating resources to use DSC. So the DSC resource kit at the time, and they really communicated with the community to say, hey, we're doing all of those things. Does anyone want to contribute? So Microsoft was leading the way, and they were managing all of these resources. But quickly, it became not really scalable for them, and they wanted to work on DSC itself, not just the resources. So the library, all the libraries, available for people to use within DSC. And then a few years ago, I would say, no, it's probably 2018 or something like that. I'm really bad with dates. So around that time, they just handed over all the open source, they were already open source, but all the open source repositories to the community. I know it's completely managed by the community. Obviously, Microsoft is still being involved, but yes, it's the community managing this. So there's a few people that try to organize we have a DSC community call every 6 weeks. In the same link in dsccommunity.org, you can find the community calls. I have to update for the next call because there's some interesting news coming as well that I can share maybe some more. But yeah, that's the community. Was Microsoft led initially. Now it's purely the community open source. And I would say what is influencing the growth is the usage. So people using it. There's different use case. So you have DSC for managing servers. That was mostly that was the primary drive at the beginning, and then came along Microsoft 365, and especially the work done by the Microsoft 365 teams. So there's a lot of DSC stuff around, managing your teams, your SharePoint, and things like that. I would say that's another part of the community that grew slightly separately from managing the servers to managing those services. And then now there's even more things coming up. I don't know if you've heard the news about Winget and Winget DSC or Winget Configure. And then there's some new things with what is probably called still DSC v3 coming up soon. So that's probably the things that drives as well more use case, different usage, and the evolution, I would say, of the platform.
Cool stuff.
So, yeah, I think that's the perfect transition for the next question.
Is it my turn, right? Is it my turn? I always get lost. Yeah. Okay. Can you share some examples of the most innovative or impactful ways you've seen PowerShell DSC being used? Projects that comes to mind, or
yes. So there's a lot of obviously everyone in the community, we talk a lot for every conferences and things like that. So I think the community is the PowerShell community at large is big, and people try different things. And then over the years, I would say what works usually sticks. So it's great to have seen many different use cases and approach. You have VMware who's done DSC resources, and they've created quite a lot of things around DSC resources to manage a VMware infrastructure. So that's one way, because they were really innovative in the space at the time when they created this. And then you have, I like it's a bias, obviously, because I helped, but the DSC workshop by Raymond Andre and Jan-Hendrik Peters. It's a great way of, managing a pipeline, managing your infrastructure, your server infrastructure through a pipeline. And all of this is open source. And they've created several talks and recordings, as you can see in the PowerShell Conference Europe YouTube channel, about how you can go about managing your systems, or how can you go about managing Microsoft 365 through Microsoft 365 DSC. So there's a lot of content there, and I really like that this is evolving and people are using this, and yet the information is free for everyone. Obviously, it's complex, but free for everyone if they want to, put their hand into it, look at the videos, and then probably, call for help when needed.
Very cool. Actually, I attended the session at PSConf around M65 DSC, and I was surprised that they also use your data module, right?
Yes, that's why I'm a bit biased, because
but it seems like playing an important role as well in this projects that.
Yes, well, the key element, and actually so when I wrote this data module, in 2016, I remember seeing a recording of the PowerShell Summit presentation of Steven Morawski, who did, how to manage DSC, in a way which is more scalable, and that's managing the data. And then I just evolved from his initial ideas close to something that Puppet did, which is Puppet Hira. And then I said, well, we need to do something similar for DSC, and I wrote that module. But basically, I invented nothing, but now it works really well. So then you manage your data, and then DSC is constructing these documents, compiling them off, and then you can just say to the servers, go get your MUF to this pool server, and then you can just manage all your configuration, and you just care about the data.
Okay, cool.
And
Interesting.
it's all in the pipelines, connected with CIs, and you don't have to do that much because the project is already doing all of this, and it's using some of the modules, like some dependencies like sampler and some other things. So it's really automated, and then you just have to write the information about your servers. You reuse the configurations blocks that we created, and especially Raymond and Jan, and then you create your MOFs, and that just happens. Make it so.
Okay, very cool, very cool. So this is, I think the next question kind of not. It's still, of course, we talk about PowerShell DSC, but I think it's again comes back to the people who are maybe starting to become interested in PowerShell DSC.
Exactly, yeah. So what are some common challenges or misconceptions you encounter from newcomers to the PowerShell DSC community, and how do you address them?
Oh dear, that's a big fight that we have daily. It's. I would say, I'll be honest, it's very challenging to understand what's going on. Obviously, I said, since 2013, we have DSC, but the DSC of 2013 and the DSC now, first of all, has changed. There's a lot of new technologies. There's a lot of new approach concepts, but they're all being, labeled or branded as DSC. But there's many different toolings that use DSC, which is the technology underneath, and there's still a new upcoming technology. We've talked about winget configure, but there's also the DSC v3, which is still like very new things, not released yet, pre-released only for winget configure, and then DSC v3 not yet. So what are the problems? Well, DSC is actually a lot of things. We need to understand the concepts, which I think is the most important, because that is the same in many other toolings. So it's the idea of you have your code, you define your code, and then you will eventually converge to that code. Whatever tool you're using doesn't really matter as much as those concepts on why they're important when you're managing systems that you need to configure. If you want to learn Kubernetes, it's actually doing the same thing, but within its Kubernetes way. You create your YAML, you create the definition of what you want to have, how you want your system to be configured, and then Kubernetes will, with this service controller and its systems, it will converge to that state. So it's still very similar in some ways. And obviously the API and the way you interact with it is different, but the principle of managing configuration is still very similar. So that's the most important part. And then if you start with DSC, you need to understand that the documentation and the blog posts that were written in 2013, 2014, 2018, 2020 maybe is probably where the limit is. That's very different to what we have now. The technology is the same, the principle is the same when you just look at the resource, but how to implement it to manage whatever you need to manage is different. So if you want to start a new project in your company, great, but you need to understand the differences. So as an example, you have new services in Azure, which is Azure auto-managed machine configuration. And that's really the modern way of using DSC. But it's not 100% the same as it was before with Azure Automation DSC as an example. And there's more things coming up. So it depends on the use case.
Okay. So
it's confusing because everything's called DSC. So
yeah, but it's always so it's really good idea to follow the piece, the community.org website. I put the link into the chat. So this is where all the new things are kind of being announced, right? So if people want to be up to date about everything,
exactly,
that's a good source.
So we have the DSC community calls every 6 weeks. It's open to everyone. It's a Teams call. We have the DSC and sometimes PowerShell PMs, so program managers. They join the call and they tell us, what's going on. And next time we have Steve Lee, the engineering manager of the PowerShell team, who is telling us about the news around DSC v3. So you will learn, what is DSC v3, which is like a new engine, at the platform level. And then it's written in Rust. So that means cross-platform. It accepts, YAML or JSON, and then it opens JSON. But, that's completely new, and that's not the way it used to be before. And then you have new ways you can create resources, simpler ways, and also some ways which are more native. So you can have a binary defining a resource. So that's the kind of thing he's going to go through in the next DSC community call. So if you want to learn about DSC and what are the things, the best thing to do is go check when is the next community call, and then just join when we do that. We also share on social media. You can find the DSC community Twitter account as an example, and then you can just find the link when we tweet about it.
Okay, cool. So we have a question from Kamil that just came in, which kind of relates actually to the next questions that we had on our list. So I would just make it visible here, because it kind of relates to actually what we wanted to ask you as well, like what kind of sets PowerShell DSC apart from other tools, which is kind of more or less this related question from Kamil here in regards to Ansible and Puppet and having this, okay, what's the right tool for the job, right? So
yeah, so there's at least two questions in this question, and I can answer because I'm a consultant with another question. So the first one is, so depending on what, so assuming you're managing, but that's not the exclusivity, but assuming you're managing Windows servers, even if you are using Puppet, and maybe if you are using Ansible, what code are you using underneath to configure those servers? So sometimes if you're on Puppet, you can use DSC resources that have been puppetized by a tool written by actually someone working at Microsoft now. It was Michael Lombardi. And there's still DSC resource underneath. And it's still a way to, even if you're using Puppet, you can consume DSC resource and then use that to configure your systems. So obviously pick whatever makes sense to you. If you already have Puppet in your company to manage servers, maybe DSC or some ways of DSC may not be the right investment, maybe not at this time. If you only having people clicking around or running scripts, maybe DSC or Ansible or Puppet is a better way of managing your servers. Which one is the easiest to pick up? Depends a little bit on the situation of the team. So that's why it depends. But so the second part of the question, which is what would need to happen for DSC to be considered as the right tool for the job, I would say it's for, I think, and I say that quite often, it's just, I think it's already the right tool for the job, but it's not clear enough for people to get there. So depending on what the job is, but if your job is mostly managing Windows Server, it's probably already one of the best tools. It depends how big is your company, how big is the number of servers that you have to manage, how complex are the configurations, and how familiar with the principle of configuration management your company is at. So there's no answer. What would need to happen? I would say probably a clearer path for DSC and how it is, how it works, and more integration from for the non-Azure folks. At the moment, from Microsoft, it's really Azure focused. Mm-hmm. But I think what's coming up next will show people a bit more. This is actually a very good tool. Some parts integrated with Winget will solve a lot of issues. Not all, but some. Setting up a dev workstation, projects or things like that would be much easier with Winget DSC.
Okay, so Kamil has added another comment, kind of related to what you said, that it's still, there's some DSC in the background. So, but I think
the next question is, so there's the DSC resources. So I mentioned earlier the built-in, so that means the one that ships with Windows. So the built-in DSC resources. They've shipped with Windows, but they haven't changed since DSC was released. So yeah, there's only security fixes, I believe, and that's probably not even used anymore. So if I have one thing to say about should we use the built-in DSC resources? No, absolutely not. Never use those. Those are old, and even the one maintained and supported by Microsoft, which are the PSDSC resources. If you look on the PowerShell gallery, those are the new ones that are more maintained, but the community one is better because it's made by the community.
Okay, cool. So Laurent just jumped in as well, and he looks like he's he's using Ansible together with PowerShell module.
Yes. So if he does that, he's using Ansible with a WinPowerShell module. So that means he's executing PowerShell. When you execute PowerShell, you can, if you want to, and there's some caveats about this, but you can execute DSC resources. Also, I believe in, actually the WinPowerShell module, and I'm afraid I haven't followed. I believe there's a DSC or DSC PowerShell or DSC module, something like that, that has been written for Ansible. But otherwise, you can just use the WinPowerShell module to execute and to invoke some DSC as well.
Okay, and then there was some final comment or question again from Camille. I think this is more about also, and I think that this is important, like the positioning of DSC and how it becomes something in the market and how people see it, right? I think that's.
And that's what I said. It's complex and it's confusing and it's not getting any better as more things are added, I would say, into the DSC mix. So some time ago, it was branded as a platform. Yes, basically after the Windows Management Framework 5.1, so the Windows PowerShell, what ships with Windows PowerShell, at that time, after that, they stopped making changes and releases to this. So that means the DSC pull server that we used to know, the Windows, the DSC service on Windows, which is still built in Windows. All of those things kind of disappear and they're not being worked on. Now, if you look at a solution like a product like Ansible or Puppet or Chef, then you would look at the Azure solution, which is Azure to manage machine configuration. Or if you would just want to consume that to configure, let's say, some desktop workstations, then you would use winget configure. There's no other platform than the one which is through Azure. No, there's no other solution, except the Azure one, the Azure-based one. But you can roll your own in some ways still.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's a good idea, though.
As always, not everything that is technical possible is a good idea, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah. Okay.
Could. That doesn't mean you should.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So I think we have one last question for this PowerShell DSC topic. Markus, is this your time again? It's my time.
It doesn't matter. I can ask.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us about any significant development or any significant developments or updates to PowerShell DSC that are currently underway or planned for the near future?
Oh, yes. Yes. So what I call DSC v3 is actually a new engine, if you want, like a new thing, a new utility that is being developed. So Steve Lee, the engineering manager of the PowerShell team, is writing a DSC tool that you can use to say, well, let's execute this DSC resource. And then you just pass it some JSON, and then it will return you some JSON, and you can run this on the command line. It's not a full solution, but when we thought about platform earlier, that's the kind of tooling that everyone that wants to extend and include, this technology for a solution, they can use. So if you think about Azure with AutoManage, they will be able to use this. But if you want to roll your own solution, you would be able to use this as well. And then everything, the idea is everyone that wants to, they can just leverage DSC and the DSC resource written by the community.
Okay, and as you said, so this will be a topic in one of the next, or for the next community talk.
So it will be in the topic for the next DSC community call. There have already been some calls, so if you look at the recordings of the previous calls, you will see those information and like some very quick demo about this. There will be some more being shared, but I'm not allowed, I think, to say it because I don't know if it's public. And if you look at the last PowerShell community calls as well, I think Steve mentioned it a few times.
Okay, cool. So again, it's a good idea to follow the pscommunity.org to get all the latest, greatest info about all that. Okay, cool. So now we are going to talk about, of course, PSConfEU. And we have a first question. We have here I don't even know if it's possible to answer, but anyway, it's how many hours/days does it take to organize PSConfEU? Do you have any idea?
About 365, I would say.
Okay.
Probably more because there's more than one person. So yes, no, it's a huge amount of work, and no, it's really a huge amount of work. So I don't know exactly, but it's definitely a full-time job, at least. Probably several times, but yeah, at least a full-time job. Yes.
Okay. So it takes people who are passionate about it to be able to do it, right?
Oh yes, yes.
Oh,
If you think you need to be passionate to go to a 4 days conference, which is really really intense in learning some things, imagine what it takes to organize it.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great point. Cool. All right. So then it brings us to the next question, Markus.
Yeah. So why should I attend PSConfEU?
I know someone did a great post on LinkedIn not long ago, and I was really pleased to see that. Heiko, did you?
Oh, yeah.
What was your take? I'm biased.
Yeah.
You're not as biased as I am.
Okay, now you want me to ask? Yeah, I mean, it's number one. It's a great community. It's friendly. It's open. You can ask everyone if you have any questions. They're great sessions, obviously. I mean, I think it was like a who is who from the PowerShell community who was there, being in person, meeting people like Jeffrey Hicks. Then obviously Bruce Payette and other people is like great. It's like the kind of, I would say, legends in this space. This is really cool. And so I couldn't attend as many sessions as I wanted to because we have been there as a sponsor, so I had other things to do. But the sessions that I attended was really great, and also having these social events around the community, and it was great. Being in a great city was great as well. But as I think you found out, Achim and I, we had almost every night we had the plans to go to the city to see something, do some sightseeing, but the magnetism around the hotel with meeting the people and talking to people, like with you, Gael, was just too strong. So even though it's a great city, for me it was more important to be with the people and make new contacts, again, learn new stuff. It was really, really, really awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, it's kind of the same. What's really important is the community. So obviously, we have amazing sessions and amazing content by people that do that. And, it's not someone that just goes and say, well, maybe you want to know about this. No, there's a lot of content which is like really coming from the trenches. And it's really, some are really deep into PowerShell. And some are just like, okay, PowerShell is just a tool, but you have all of these other tools that, solutions you want to integrate together. And this is how you use PowerShell as the glue to do it. So there's different skills level, different technologies involved, Azure, not Azure, whatever a solution you want. And then, for 4 days, you have loads of information, centralized, and then you have access to them, and you can select which room you want to go, which tracks you want to listen to, which speakers you want to talk to because you've seen what they're doing. Maybe you don't understand from the documentation or something, or maybe you just want to help out, or maybe you want to grab someone, that you've seen from the community and say, well, I have this problem. What do you think it is? And that's an amazing opportunity to do that with all of those people around, and you are immersed for 4 days, as you said, during the full day, but also during the social events that we try to organize. And then sometimes it's just people just stick together to go for dinner after the event. So I think it's almost unique in terms of like there's 2 events every year, one in the US and one in Europe. So there's not that many opportunities, but it's a great way like to really connect with everyone from the community, whether the speakers, participants, everyone's equal, and then everyone is really mixing together.
Perfect. And like Alan states here, it's coffee breaks, evening chats is like you get even more information maybe and new contacts, new friends than you have with the official sessions that are, by the way, they're recorded, and we're going to put the YouTube
chat
as well. Yeah,
we've got a playlist for 2023.
Yeah,
Already, it was in June, and then this year, thanks to Thorsten, everything's already released. So everything is...
Oh, perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool. So, okay, there's another comment from Thomas, who's actually one of our customers who, we wanted to bring for sightseeing as well. But again.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard. But I said, I've seen very little of Prague. The little I've seen was amazing. So I will go back, but, not during a conference or something. I will do proper sightseeing another time.
Yeah, I think this is what Thomas did. I think he stayed there for the next weekend, so he had more time to do it. So that's always an option. So do you want to share something here, because you added something to the stream, Gael? Would you like?
Yes, because we had. If you want to know, what PSConfEU is about, maybe the next step will be Minicon.
Oh yeah. There's actually. Would have been a question, but you can. So right now, I think you're not sharing a screen yet.
Maybe. Oh yeah, I was, or maybe just it just.
Hey, yeah. All right, there it is. Okay, cool stuff.
Yeah. So on the 24th of October, we will have a virtual PSConfEU, which is what we do now. Like we have. I don't know if you're familiar with Gather.town. And Gather.town is a platform where you have like a little avatar that you can walk in a map, and you can have some fun because you can, drive a cart or something. And then you can go towards someone, and then as you get close enough, you can start seeing their camera, and then you can hear them, and then you can engage in conversation like you would do, in a conference floor. So I think it's a better way to interact and select where you want to go by going, or at least your avatar going towards, the subjects that you're interested, or the people maybe you recognize, or you just because, they're standing around, Azure DevOps logo, they say maybe they're going to talk about Azure DevOps over there, and then you can come and then get into this discussion and then just interact with the community. So it's not just a stream where you receive, but you're not really interacting. It's really a matter where you can just go and talk to the community. You can go share your screen if you want to, or if you can just go and talk shop. So 24th, we have already a few presentations that will be there. We will announce the schedule and all the details. We're really early in the preparation, but we have Matthias. He couldn't deliver the session at PSConfEU, so he's going to deliver this session during Minicon.
Cool.
So if you know Matthias, it's going to be a great session.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of content there. And, I talked about Steve Lee talking about DSC v3. So I said, DSC v3, de-rusting the platform. Because he's using Rust to write it. So I thought that was a funny joke.
That's playing with words. That's a great thing. Yeah, cool. Very, very cool. Actually, by the way, I just forgot about something very, very important, because why somebody should go to PSConfEU, right? There is the mug, there's the shirt, So these are just the things aside that are kind of...
Yeah, we have a little bit of swag, and, although we try to keep it entertaining as well. So we have some fun events, so people can mix and then exchange. What's important is for people to connect with some other people doing the similar things, and then learn from different perspectives. It's not just about the sessions; it's about everything around the sessions.
Perfect. And if people want to learn about it more, I guess PSConfEU is the website to go to, right?
Yes, it is.
So all the news will become available there.
Yes, and then also go on to LinkedIn. At the moment, we prefer using LinkedIn, but we also use Twitter. And then you can follow us, so then you get all the news and all the new information that we're doing. And there's a bit more I will talk to you about maybe later in this call.
Okay, very, very, very cool. All right, so for people who have not been to PSConf, they can watch the videos. They are on the YouTube channel. We put that into the chat as well. So there's a playlist for this year's channel. Oh, and there are more speakers. All right.
We still need to. Yeah, we
Okay.
still need to. She agreed. So Chrissy, and it's amazing. Chrissy say, "Oh yes, I'd like to do it again." So she said, yes. We still have to make sure we know which topic. So we will publish this information later on social media. Another good reason to follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter if you use Twitter.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so these are already 3 great speakers. So
yes, it's a good start, and that's because we haven't started yet all the planning.
Yeah, so you can't go wrong actually with things. There is Alain, I guess this is Alain, right? Had another comment, which is quite interesting as well. Would it be good to have some key bits to add in applying approval for the conference from your company? That maybe kind of relates to also, I think, Laurent comments on my post on LinkedIn when it was about, okay, how can I convince my management, my boss, to get me to PSConf? I think obviously, I guess different companies have different rules and different boxes that have to be ticked, so somebody can go to a conference like this. But I would say, content-wise, of course, it is even more than a training. The variety of information is huge, right?
It's very hard for someone who's never been to a conference like this, because it's definitely not it's not a marketing conference. Even as a sponsor, you're not just going to go and talk to someone, hey, we are the best whatever in the world. Just come, like, the first question you ask, okay, what do you do? What do you use PowerShell? People are really focused on solving problems, and then they come to you because you and your product may help in some ways, and then you just try to discover how this product can help them. If they say, well, we're trying to do this, they say, well, maybe that's not the part that our product will help you, and then you can direct them, because you're a PowerShell junkie, like we all are, I would say, in the conference. So it's very hard for people to understand there's this conference about PowerShell. How would you sell that to your company? It's hard. But I'm really interested in, and Alan, that's probably for you as well. Just send us an email and then we can start, or you know where to find me. We can start the discussion, and then what would you need? And we would be happy to help, creating this. If they need, a white paper saying, what happens, or if they want description, if they want information, a blog post, I'm really, really happy to help out, doing this, so then we can help you eventually getting approval to go to the conference. But I don't know where to start, so feel free to contact me and tell me what you think your company would need.
Yeah, perfect. I think that's would be a good next step to get this information, so we can basically get more people getting involved with PSConf, which I think would be great. So we already actually are above our 45 minutes section, but we have still more questions. So I think one was about the Minicon, which you already answered, which is great.
Yeah,
good.
So, and the other one is, Markus, again, is it my time? I have no idea.
Yeah. So I think we can leave the question about the Minicon, and I think the last question for the PSConfEU is, how can I become a speaker at PSConfEU?
Oh, that's a good point, because I don't have the right link in my slides right now, which I should have, and then I just forgot. So if you want to become a speaker but you don't know where to start, we actually have a speaker mentorship program. So we will help you creating the abstracts, submitting to the CFP. Obviously, for the call for papers, obviously you will go through the same process as everyone else once you go through the CFP, but you have probably better chance to of being selected. And we have a form that you can fill to say, well, I'm interested, I'd like some help in this, and then you say a little bit, what you would like to have in the mentorship program, and then we will do the first call with everyone, and then we will tell you, okay, this is what we're looking for, this is how you should write your abstracts, and then we will say, okay, now you can start, you draft your first abstracts, you send it to us, and then we will give you some feedback, and then you can go write your other abstracts, and then we will give you some feedback, And then when we think, okay, you've done enough, you can go and submit it if you want. You can keep working on them. And then people like this, and then if they're selected, we carry on with helping out during the presentations when they're making the presentation. So we will help them, we will listen to their presentation. So then we are sure when the day arrives, well, they have a great presentation, they're comfortable doing it, and it will be good content for the attendees.
Cool. Yeah, and I know from Emrys, who was a first-time speaker, he talked about his experience in our last user group Rhein-Neckar session just 2 weeks ago, and he said it was great. It really helped him, and he's already thinking about the topic for the next PSConfEU, which actually brings us to
what we want.
The topic. Like, there was another question, like, what are the plans for the future, which perfectly relates to your slides. So it looks like there will be one in 2024. That's good news. But I guess you still don't know where it's going to be, right?
No, it's actually even harder than last year. So yes, finding the venue is much harder than people will think it is, because obviously there's the budget limitation, which is one variable, but then there's a lot of other variables, which is finding the right venue for the right size, and this is really, really hard. So we still don't know exactly. We don't know where it's going to be. We have some ideas. We're still communicating with those venues, but we don't know.
Okay, but there are already some interesting news. The slides that you show us here.
Yes. So this is here. Yeah. So we really want. So we exist because the community exists, and we want to encourage the community to grow. So we think like organizing a user group is kind of a lot of work, but at the same time, you don't always have a direct incentive of doing so. So we thought, okay, we are creating an incentive for the meetup organizers. If you organize a meetup in Europe, sorry, we have to have this limitation, but if you organize a meetup in Europe, and when we say Europe is Europe as a geographic place, right? So you can, if you do more than 5 meetups between now and maybe PSConfEU 2024, like a bit before, then it would be better if you want to make sure you have a seat, because even if we give you a discount, you may not have any seats, so you need to book early enough. But then if you organize 5, as soon as you've organized the 5, obviously we can verify that you did organize those meetups. Then you can just send us an email and say, hey, I've organized all these 4. This is where you can find the information, like meetup.com or something else. And we will give you a 50% discount on the ticket price.
Cool. That's cool.
So that's a good incentive, I think, for the people like that want to organize a meetup.
Yeah.
And then
that's cool
for
stuff.
the early bird tickets, they will be on sale soonish, and I say soonish because that's something that is hard to find out. We need to find a location. Once we have the location, we need to register for VAT in that location. The tax is something that sometimes takes a bit to get set up, and after that only we will be able to start selling tickets. So it's going to take a few months, I would say. Hopefully, we will be able, by a minicon is usually the target that when minicon happens, we usually start opening the tickets at that time. So
Perfect. I think here Alan has a suggestion for the location here. Okay, who knows?
I know. We can talk, Alan. We can talk.
Okay, very cool. So I think, Markus, looking at the time, we can maybe now just end up with having some final kind of more fun-related questions at the end. What do you think?
Yeah, sure. I think we can fit them in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, or so, maybe
okay.
10.
So you talked about China at the beginning. So what is your favorite place to be?
My favorite place to be?
Yeah, you traveled quite a bit, right? You organized, the PowerShell conference in Asia when you were there and stuff like that. So
co-organized, yes. I helped.
I helped. Yeah, so you might have seen some places.
Yeah, there's no favorite place to me. I like where I'm at the moment, and usually, I've lived in Malaysia, I've lived in China, I lived in France, in the UK, in Switzerland. There's no bad place, to be honest. It's just like, do you have the people you care, around you? Are you having fun? That's what's more important than really the location you are. I like traveling, but at the same time, traveling is hard, tiring. So I'm not great for the environment, to be honest. So it's always balancing a little bit, what you want to do, what you can do. And if I went to China, I actually was not visiting at this time. That's because I have my in-laws over there, my family over there. So it's just a family trip. So yeah, best place, I like Switzerland. Having good fun. The weather is perfect these days.
Yeah, I can imagine. Nice chocolate, right, and stuff like that.
Yeah, and cheese. Everything that I need. Chocolate and cheese. Not in the same time, but yes.
Cool. Okay, so then we have another question. It's like, what are you doing in your spare time? I mean, I can see some guitar in the background. So is this something?
So that's one is my kid's guitar. You can see maybe on the other side, like we can still see a little bit of my my Les Paul there. Actually, probably the fair thing to say is I don't have spare time. I organized the PowerShell Conference Europe in my spare time. I think that's already taking lots of time. And when I still have some times, I try to organize meetups. So we do the Swiss PowerShell meetup user group.
True.
That's the one which obviously with PSConfEU that happened recently, it's been left alone for a bit. So we need to relaunch this as well, probably after the summer. I've been organizing the London PowerShell meetup for a long time now, and I'm still doing it, although I don't live there anymore. But I try to organize as soon as I have a trip planned over there. So I do lots of things like this for the community when I have some spare time. Okay, and otherwise, I have kids, so I don't really have spare time anyway.
Okay, so it seems like you're a busy man.
Yes.
Okay. But you're having fun with it. That's the most important thing, right?
Yes. And I said earlier, if you want to learn PowerShell, you need to, have something where you can use it and then have some fun with it. Same goes with organizing stuff. If it's just painful, then don't do it.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to enjoy it. You're going to put pressure on yourself, and that's not going to be good.
Absolutely. So that leads to the last question we have on our list, Markus, right?
Yeah. So do you have any guilty pleasures?
Chocolate and cheese.
Okay, that counts.
So
yeah. Cool.
So because my family is still in China, so I came back to work. So I have lots of free time, like for these 2 weeks-ish. And what I do really is when I have time and when I can, I go by the lake and I play beach volley. That's my guilty pleasure when they're not around and I actually have time.
Nice. Okay. Very nice. Cool. Okay, cool. So yeah, I think we have that is a good end to our talk. So thanks a lot, Gael. A lot of interesting information about PowerShell DSC, about the PSConf, the things that are coming up. And actually, I'm looking forward to Minicon and to the PSConf next year. And I hope we'll see a lot of familiar faces, but also new faces. That's, by the way, I was really also surprised when you did a show of hands at the beginning of the conference about how many people were there the first time. And I think it was about 80, 90 people. So that was really amazing.
I think it was closer for the first time. It was closer to not 50%, but maybe 40%.
Yeah.
So I think it was quite impressive for the newcomer to PSConfEU. Yeah. And then we have also a strong, people that have been there many, many years. So we have really the two, we have everything in between from it's the first time, the second time. Well, I've been there since the beginning or things like that. So yes. It's amazing to see the community like this growing.
Yeah, great mix. All right, cool. So again, thanks a lot, Gael. It was a very interesting talk. Thanks everyone for joining in. Thanks for the questions, for the interaction, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
See you soon.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Gael. Thank you, folks. Bye.
Bye.